Meeting of Wednesday, July 24th, 2024. At this time, I'm going to call upon everyone so we can stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I ask that you all remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of our soldiers, past and present. Thank you. So at this time, I'd like to announce that this meeting is being recorded by Dartmouth Community TV. Also, I'd like to announce that our next regular scheduled meeting is on August 7th of 2024 here in room 304 of the town office. Moving on to the public hearings portion of tonight's meeting. The first matter we have on the agenda is variance ZAV 24-5. The petitioner applicant is Dartmouth Fire District 1. The subject property is 10 Bridge Street, also known as map 117, lot 110. And it's located in the general residence district. Gentlemen, if you remember, we actually opened this case and we had to continue it because the petitioner had to amend their request, and as a result, tonight, they've submitted a letter to their representative that they'd like to withdraw ZAV 24-5. I'm going to read it into the letter. It's addressed to the zoning board. It's dated July 16th, and it's signed by Nathaniel Ginsberg. And it says, "Dear Ms. Vieira, please accept this letter as our formal request to withdraw variance case ZAV 24-5 without prejudice, so that our new application for the Dartmouth Fire District 1 renovation addition project may proceed at the July 24th, 2024 hearing." As you can see, gentlemen, on the agenda we have an application for a special permit and also for a variance for the very same project. So at this point, unless there's any comments or any questions of the petition, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we accept the request to withdraw without prejudice for case variance ZAV 24-5.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. So we've taken care of that matter. So we've got two companion cases tonight. I will read them both first. We'll open them both up, and then we can decide them individually. The first matter we have on is special permit ZSP 24-12. The applicant petitioner is Dartmouth Fire District 1. The representative is Brewster Thornton Group Architects. The subject property is 10 Bridge Street, map 117, lot 170. The property is located in the general residence district, and the case was legally advertised on July 4th and July 11th.
I make a motion that we waive the reading of the abutters list.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. On this particular case, the petitioner is seeking a special permit to increase the nonconformity of the lot coverage from 88% to 91%. I'm going to read on and open the next case. Variance case is ZAV 24-12. The petitioner is also Dartmouth Fire District, same parcel, and there were notifications on this case as well that were published on July 4th and July 11th.
I make a motion that we waive the reading of the abutters list again.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. In this case, the petitioner is seeking a variance for renovations and an addition for an existing fire station, to an existing fire station, to 10.9 feet encroaching on the required 20-foot street setback. So let me see if there are any comments. Well, let me read the denial letter first. There it is. This letter is dated June 14th, 2024, addressed to Christine Shea in Providence, Rhode Island. I believe that's a representative of the petitioner. And it indicates that, and it's from the building department, and it says, "I have reviewed your application, and at this time, your proposal cannot be approved due to non-compliance with current zoning regulations. Proposed renovations and addition to an existing fire station to 10.9, encroaching on the 20-foot required street setback per 375-10.4-D1A variance required. Also, the proposed renovations increase the nonconformity of the lot from 88% to 91% per 375-10.4F special permit required. Your application is being denied on the following sections of the zoning bylaw. And it's 375-10.4. The purpose of a lot setback requirement is to lessen congestion and overcrowding of lots to provide access within the lot for general circulation and maintenance of the buildings located thereon, to provide access in the case of fire, and to lessen congestion and promote safety in adjacent streets. Minimum setback dimensions. Any building or structure placed on a lot, whether temporary or permanent, shall meet the following minimum setback requirements. And in this particular case, the setback requirements are 20 feet. Then there's also the development standard. It has to do with the impermeable surface, and it says it's within the percentage of lot coverage. In the general residence district, all uses on a lot, which include but are not limited to building structures, driveways, parking areas, gravel areas, walks, patios, storage areas, impermeable surfaces, etc., shall not cover more than 50% of the lot. Natural areas such as landscaping, gardens, lawns, etc., are not regulated within the 50% requirement. And it goes on to say the subject property is located in the general residence district. So that's the letter we have there, and we have some comments. That was from the building department. We've got some comments. We've got a comment from the planning department. It says that site plan review is required, which I'm sure the petitioner is aware of. And DPW says compliance with the following DPW regulations, rules, and specifications will be required, but not limited to the following: Department of Public Works construction specifications and standard details, latest revision, General Bylaw, Chapter 313, stormwater management regulations, rules and regulations for the installation and connection of building sewers and for the use of public sewers, and site plan shall show all existing utilities. All right, so at this point in time, if there are no questions, I'm going to call upon the petitioner's representative so they can state their case.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening, first of all. And for the record, my name's Joe Casali. I'm a registered professional engineer with offices at 300 Post Road in Warwick, Rhode Island. With me is Nate Ginsberg, who's a principal architect with the firm Brewster Thornton Group Architects out of Providence, Rhode Island. And the fire chief is also here with us. As you said, Mr. Chairman, we're here for two issues, both expansion on existing non-conforming conditions. If I may, I have a quick PowerPoint presentation just to highlight the two requests we're asking for. You all know better than I where the subject parcel is in terms of the community, Bridge Street, Cleveland, and the aforementioned parcel, specifically Assessors Plat 117, Lot 170. It's a small piece, only about 24,000 square feet, just larger than half of an acre. As you stated, Mr. Chairman, all of the subject parcel and surrounding parcels are in the general residence zone. There is some limited business up near the waterfront. The parcel does touch the flood zone in the southernmost corner. All of the construction will be out and away from the flood zone. Our proposal is the existing garage is going to remain, and the offices are going to be raised and replaced. You can see the existing offices now are legal non-conforming, 20-foot front yard setback from Cleveland Street. We're approximately 18.7, and the lot right now is about 88% impervious, which is about 21,400 square feet. Our proposal is a two-story building addition, just shy of 2,700 square feet. You can see much needed program. That's the basement, just some electrical storage, mechanical. But in the first floor with the training, kitchen, different dispatch, and ready room, watch room, some offices, and then up top, bunks, day rooms, and baths, and some study areas. You can see the north elevation of what you see, very tasteful within the existing architectural condition that's out there. That's from Cleveland Street, the subject of variance, Bridge Street, and then that's into the existing building. So again, we're here on two matters, Mr. Chairman. First, the dimensional relief respectfully request that you allow the building 10.9 feet from the front yard setback, front yard property line, which is 9.1 feet of relief. And then also In terms of the lot coverage, we're adding about 729 square feet of impervious lot area. So we're increasing the lot coverage from the 88% to the 91. As you know, 50% is the maximum in this zone. I'm not sure there are any questions, but I would be happy to answer them. Architecturally, Mr. Ginsberg is here, and of course, the chief is with us as well.
I don't have any questions at this time, but I'm going to call upon any of my fellow members here. You guys have any questions?
I have no questions.
I have no questions.
Gentlemen?
I have none.
All right, so this is a public hearing, as you well know. I've got some people here in the audience. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in either in favor or in opposition to this petition? Absolutely, you can come up. You have to identify yourself. I'm sorry, though. For the record, you have to identify yourself, name and address, and then you can ask your question. If we can't answer it, then we'll defer to the representative.
Lee Brownell Currens. We live at 329 Elm Street, so we back up to the fire station. The first question that we had was in regards to moving the filling station, the gasoline filling area, which is currently against the back of the building. It's now going to be backing up to the residential yard. And we know that there's lots of plans of what's going to do underground. But I just was wondering what the safety regulations are in terms of being that close to a private property in case of spill or fire. You know, so we know that they're going to put it out because they're right there, but what's the thinking on that?
That is not specifically within our purview because we're zoning, but obviously it's a concern. We do have their representative, so I'm going to call upon their representative. We also have the fire chief here today as well, but I will call upon their representative if he has any questions, and maybe they can elaborate as to what their plan is, if they actually are moving it, where they're moving it to, and whatnot.
Okay, and then I'll have another question that might go to the building.
Let's start the next question.
Okay, the next question in regards to the plans that was showing the lighting on the back corner, the closest to our property. It looks like a pretty big floodlight so that can illuminate when they need to fill the trucks with the gas. And we'd like to know what the plan is from a lighting pollution standpoint, that we have 2 bedrooms that will be shining into, and hopefully there are plans being made that they can only turn it on when needed, and that any angling of the shade or the lighting could take into consideration guests and family being able to sleep at night. So that's it.
Let's hear what they have to say. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much for asking those questions and the opportunity to address both of those.
I just need you to identify yourself if you
Yep,
could.
my name is Nate Ginsberg. I'm the architect for the project from Brewster Thornton Group, and Joe Casale from Joe Casale Engineering. So on the, let me take the lighting first. So we are required to keep all of the light on the site. We will be providing full cutoff fixtures, which don't allow light to spread beyond the site. The light at the fueling station will be used only for fueling when that is in use. And in general, there are low light levels programmed for around the building, because we know it's a residential neighborhood.
That one in the corner?
Sorry, you have to come up. Otherwise, we don't get it on the record, and then it becomes problematic. You can come up.
So would that corner light be on all the time at night?
No. So we have multiple light levels designed around the building, and the lights that are designed to stay on are very low, that light the doors of the building.
That are on
at
that
a
lower tier.
At a lower tier at a residential level. The ones that are up high at a higher level, only on when they're needed and in use.
Terrific, thank you.
For the fuel, we actually have moved the tank from where it is next to the building into the corner. There is a 5-foot concrete retaining wall, and then there's a fence above that. So it's moved from that spot down into the lower left in the corner. So It will be, the fueling tank will actually be lower and be concealed behind the fence and the concrete wall. There are two fuel spill containment pads, one where the truck is when it's filling, and then the other one underneath the pad itself. Those are designed for a moderate level of fuel spillage to be contained within the pad and then evaporate. For a larger spill, there is a catch basin prior to the sewer that takes drainage from the general lot. If there is a spill, there is a key and a lever so that that catch basin can be cut off and nothing will get into to the drainage stream. And those will all be contained. The fuel tank itself is a double tank, so if the inside tank ruptured, there is an outside tank, so there's multiple redundancies. Yeah, thank you.
Is that a buried tank?
It is not, it is an above-ground
It's
tank.
above ground?
Yeah.
Okay. Does that answer your questions?
Yes.
All right, not to say you like the answers, but that it did, all right.
That was very thorough.
Okay. All right. Are there any follow-up questions on anything?
No, I have none.
I think it'd be appropriate if we're going to consider this, if there were going to be a condition, there would be some condition about lighting, that the lighting would be proposed in a manner that would be limiting to surrounding neighbors, and that, you know, any lighting for the fuel area would only be operable during fueling time.
Mr. Chair, they submitted a lighting photometric site plan too, and they show zero, I believe, at the property line. They don't show any.
We do. We have a photometric plan within the package. We're less than a half a foot candle all around the property lines. You know, it's great with today's technology. We now have dark sky compliant with LED lighting with almost everything. The days of the halogen lighting and you know, they're going by. So you won't see those large spotlights. You'll just see directional dark sky LED lights, and they certainly can be motion detected and utilized just when we're fueling.
Okay. Oh, we can discuss that as well. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak either in favor or in objection to, or in opposition to this petition? Well, I can report to our viewers at home, we have at least 25, 30 people here today, and we've only had one person who had some comments, and they were valid. So at this point in time, I'm going to leave the public portion of both hearings open, so we can go through some findings. You have any proposed, excuse me? Both of them, yes. Do the variance one first. Gentlemen, I'll take them out of order. We'll do the variance one first, if that's
Sure.
okay with you guys? Again, these are just some suggestions. I'm open to any comments that you guys may have. All right, so the subject property is located at 10 Bridge Street and is in a general residence zoning district and is also known as map 117, lot 170 on Dartmouth Assessors Map. The subject property is improved with a commercial building that has been owned by the Dartmouth Fire District 1 since 1972. If that's incorrect, let me know. Town of Dartmouth zoning bylaw, Article 10, Section 375-10.4 D1, a minimum setback dimensions allows any building or structure placed on a lot, whether temporary or permanent, shall meet the following minimum setback requirements: a 20-foot minimum setback from street right-of-way lines or vehicular easement lines. The zoning enforcement office has determined that the lot was in existence prior to 1993, and there's evidence to support the building was constructed in 1950. And the petitioner seeks to renovate and construct an addition to the existing fire station, a distance of 10.9 feet from the street line, encroaching on the required 20-foot street line setback. Petitioner seeks relief from the street line setback, and the board finds that the petitioners have met the statutory requirements of Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 10. Now we've got the four-pronged.
Didn't look at the height. I'm assuming the height will be in compliance with the required. Okay, if you want to just add to we
Yes.
add that to the finding that
The proposed structure
would meet the required height requirements in the general residence,
will meet. All right. So the first prong is there are circumstances related to soils, shape, and topography that especially affect the subject property that do not generally affect the zoning district in which the structure or land is located. Now, I found this, I don't know, I did this a few weeks ago, just putting some of this together. 1950, does that sound right that the building was 1950? I got the fire chief saying no. So when was the building constructed? 1977? Okay, so let's change that.
Change it also in the,
Another one, 1977. The existing commercial building, which was built in 1977, is presently set back 20 feet from the street line. Petitioners seek to construct an addition to the fire station by 10.9 feet to serve the department's space needs for the betterment of its services to town residents. Second prong, a literal enforcement of the provisions of the bylaw would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner. The proposed addition to the fire station, being 10.9 feet from the street line, is conducive to the fire department's use of the remaining parcel and its ability to properly serve the town. Conformance with required zoning would limit the fire department's ability to serve the fire protection needs of the community. Third, desirable relief may be granted without detriment to the public good. The current front setback for the existing commercial building is 20 feet from the street line. The proposed addition will be 10.9 feet, thereby maintaining a similar look and in keeping with other structures in the neighborhood. And subpart 4, the purpose of the setback bylaw is to ensure a distance between structure and street lines. There are adjoining properties with structures closer to lot lines than the proposed 10.9 feet for the approved addition. Therefore, the granting of this variance will not nullify or substantially derogate from the intent or purpose of the bylaw.
Mr. Chair, just one, in the findings, did you want to add that the existing building is non-conforming
Yes, we can do
to
that.
the setback
Yes.
currently, so
It's a pre-existing
it's not,
non-conforming.
yes, so,
That number 7. The existing building is pre-existing and non-conforming
to the front.
current setback requirements. How's that?
Is fact number 2 correct, Mr. Chairman?
No, it should be 77. You mean about the ownership?
Yeah.
You want to just say the town?
No, I meant, you had 72 in
All
there.
right, so we got 77. We rectified that as well.
They did buy the property
In 72.
in 1972, the property.
Probably says it's improved for the commercial building has been owned by,
They
so,
didn't build the station until 5 years later.
so
It
seven,
was improved in 77, so we'll leave it at 77. Thank you, though, for the clarification. I'm supposed to make you go up. I made her go up. I'm supposed to make you go up, identify yourself, and then you can speak. We'll just say it was a fire chief for the record, okay? All right. The conditions are, the petitioner will secure all the necessary permits and approvals from applicable boards and agencies, and all conditions associated with previous variance, which they don't have here. Now, gentlemen, I did raise a concern, just because a neighbor, and I can understand that things are said here, we always want them to be followed through, but I don't have an engineering background, I don't know, lighting is, over the last 20 years, lighting has changed, and we don't want spillage going onto people's properties as far as, 1 o'clock in the morning, and they're trying to go to bed, and there's light in their backyard as if it's, a festival going on. I'm hoping that this lighting requirement that you've indicated, can you explain that a little further?
Sure, but if you feel better, I don't think it hurts that, to add a condition that they have to comply with what they submitted, so which,
All right, and
and the zoning, and with the town of.
they also have to go before planning board, and planning board will put limitations on what you guys can do with that, correct?
Yeah, and we would be happy to stipulate to be in compliance with the photometric plan we submitted, which is in compliance with town ordinance.
I agree.
Right.
You can add that.
I'll
And
add that.
I noticed, Mr. Chair, just, this is more like an administrative thing, because I think I might have, Mr. Casali, I think I might have mentioned last time, on the site plan, because you have a dimension to the property line, if you can add the surveyor's stamp on that sheet number, we don't want you to come back here for that, but, yeah.
What we did was we added the dimension to the surveyor's sheet.
Oh, okay, I didn't, okay. On the
Rather
existing
than-
conditions?
Yes, well, and then he put the proposed dimension on there. He felt more comfortable stamping his plan than putting his survey stamp on.
On your plan? Yeah. Okay.
So the revised survey plan that we submitted, Brad Tavares is our Commonwealth.
Yeah, I see it. Okay, yeah, you're good. Thank you. That's not consistent, yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right, so we're not gonna close the public hearing on this yet. I'm gonna move on to the next one. The special permit.
Special permit, yeah.
There's a lot of redundant language, so I ask you to bear with me.
Thank you.
All right, the subject property is located at 10 Bridge Street and is in a general residence zoning district and is also known as map 117, lot 170 on Dartmouth Assessors Map. The subject property is improved with a commercial building and has been owned by the Dartmouth Fire Department since 1977. The petitioner seeks relief from Dartmouth zoning bylaw, Article 10, Section 375-10.4F, Development Standards, Percentage of Lot Coverage, in general residence district, all uses on a lot which include but are not limited to buildings, structures, driveways, parking areas, gravel areas, walks, patios, storage areas, impermeable surfaces, etc., shall not cover more than 50% of the lot. Natural areas such as landscaping, gardens, lawns, etc., are not regulated within the 50% requirement. The petitioners seek to renovate and construct an addition to the existing fire station, a distance of 10.9 feet from the street line, encroaching on a 20-foot street line setback. Petitioners seek relief from lot coverage wherein the proposed renovations will increase the nonconformity of lot coverage from 88% to 91%. The board finds that the increase in lot coverage will not be detrimental to the neighborhood and is in general harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw. I'm open to any comments, gentlemen.
It's a very modest increase.
Sure. Gentlemen? All right, so we've already allowed people to speak on this, and they had one concern. I believe that we're addressing it because it's already in there. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing on one of the cases, or if you want to do both at once, we can do that as well. Let's do one at a time. I want to entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the variance case.
So you're looking to me? I make a motion that we close the public hearing on variance case ZAV-24-12.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, you guys want to finalize this one, or do you want me to also close the public hearing on the next one?
We can finalize this one and
Finalize
close
this
it
one?
and then
Okay,
close the
we'll-
hearing.
we'll
on-
close this one. So, gentlemen, are there any additional comments or any statements anyone wants to make with regard to this before we put it forth for a vote?
No?
I have nothing to add.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we close the public hearing first, right?
We did that.
For-
We already did. We just did.
Yes, we did.
Variance.
Okay.
We're
Variance.
doing them separate. I know you're
Yes.
thinking, I
The
didn't
second one,
start
okay,
that way.
all right, yeah. Go ahead.
I make a motion that we approve variance case ZAV-24-12 for 10 Bridge Street, Dartmouth, Mass.
With the statement,
As stated, as written, and based on the conditions previously stated.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. That's that one.
Yeah, now we close the
All
public
right,
hearing.
now I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the special permit case.
I make a motion that we close the public hearing on special permit case 24-12.
Second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Now, are there any additional comments or any discussion we need to have with regard to this one, gentlemen?
No, Mr. Chair.
No, nothing to add.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve special permit case 24-12 for 10 Bridge Street, Dartmouth, with the findings and conditions previously stated.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Congratulations. All right, moving on. Next matter we have is a use variance for ZAV 24-12.
No.
Wait a sec. How does this have the same number?
No.
That's not a use variance.
It's not a variance, it's just a variance. And you got 24-12 here too. It's not correct. Let's see. It's 24-10.
It is 10.
Smithy Bosch,
But I got two numbers. Oh, that's ZSP.
That's ZSP.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's where it
it's
gets
confusing.
correct.
I
I
don't-
did
They
I-
need
24-10,
to
you
change
kept it the
those.
same.
Didn't
Okay.
highlight them? Maybe I didn't highlight them on there.
All right, so it's variance case ZAV 24-10. The petitioner is Peter Bullard Esquire. The owner of the property is Raymond Rose Senior Trustee. The subject property is located at 411 Fons Corner Road, also known as map 63, lot 12. The property is located in the Limited Industrial District. The case was legally advertised on July 4th and July 11th.
Make a motion that we waive the reading of the abutters list.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. In this case, the petitioner is seeking a use variance to construct a 39,057 plus or minus square foot car dealership. Let's see what we got here for comments. Well, let's start first with the denial letter. This is from the building inspector. It was dated May 14th of this year to address the Peter Bullard. It's regarding 411 Fons Corner Road. It says, "I have reviewed your application, and at this time, your proposal cannot be approved due to noncompliance with current zoning regulations. The construction of a 39,057 square foot plus or minus car dealership. The design of the parking lot does not meet setbacks, number of spaces required, or size of spaces required per 375-24.3. The total lot coverage is not specified and may require zoning relief. Variance is required for proposed project. Your application is being denied under the following sections of the Dartmouth zoning bylaw, 375-21.4C development standards. All uses on the lot, which include but not limited to buildings, driveways, parking areas, storage areas, impermeable surfaces, etc., shall not cover more than 65% of the entire lot. Landscaped areas are not included. Parking facility setbacks. Parking facilities shall meet the following minimum setbacks: 40 feet from street, 30 feet to property line, 15 feet from building. 375-24.3 off-street parking regulations, 1 per 150 square foot of GFA, and parking facility design standards. The subject property is located in a limited industrial district. So that's that. Now, what about the comments from the other boards? We have that. You have one? Thank you. From the planning board, the planning board site plan review is required if this variance is approved, which I'm sure you're well aware, Attorney Bullard. Board of Health, if the board considers approval of the variance, please consider placing a condition upon the approval for some above-ground stormwater control. This location is within the impaired watershed to the Slocum's River, an impervious area as previously noted to the board in the application for 1402 Tucker Road. In the application for 14 Tucker Road is a primary contributor of nitrogen to the Slocum's River. What's the relevance of 1402? I believe this is a typo, but maybe we'll be able to solicit something further as it goes along. This was a note from Christopher Michaud. Conservation, as has been discussed at least 2 previous technical reviewers meetings, the western third of the site is bisected from north to south by a stream/wetland corridor in the center. Wetlands may encroach onto the site from the south, and the eastern portion of the site supports wetlands and designated endangered species habitat. No permit applications under wetland jurisdiction have been filed to date, and I would say that there are conservation and stormwater issues related to this site. So you've got some conservation issues to be contending with. DPW, compliance with the following DPW regulations, rules, and specifications will be required, but not limited to the following: Department of Public Works construction specifications and standard details, general bylaw, chapter 313, stormwater management regulations, rules and regulations for the installation and connection of building sewers, and for the use of public sewers. So those are the comments that we have so far. So at this time, I'm going to call upon the petitioner's representative, who we know, who's been before us, and Attorney Peter Bullard. Good evening.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Peter Bullard, with an law office at 115 Orchard Street in New Bedford. If somebody's been arrested, please go somewhere else. I'd like to start by thanking Michelle. This is not my first rodeo, but she always manages to teach me something. So thank you, Michelle. So I'm here on behalf of my client, PRM Holdings. I'd like to just a brief overview. As you've read into the record, the proposal is a new car dealership, Audi VW car dealership, about 35,000 square feet. I think it's important for the record to touch base on the process. My clients have touched base with the neighbors. My clients have tried to be very, very transparent with their intentions. They've also tried to work very, very closely with the town and the town department heads. I'm older than dirt, but I think this technical review concept is a great concept. I don't know who came up with it, but I don't remember it happening back in the day. But my clients have met twice with department heads, planning board, fire chiefs, police chiefs, and to get feedback. And they've been guided, and that process has, in my opinion, been very, very constructive. So my clients have been working hard to work with the town. The denial letter speaks for itself. It does mention that we need a use variance, and it cites two zoning provisions, 375-21-2, limited industrial district, which spells out kind of what you can do in that zoning district. A car dealership is not listed as an allowed use. Manufacturing and agricultural uses are emphasized, but they're really not, in my humble opinion, practical in that area, given its small dimension on Fawns Corner Road and the prevalence of wetlands. I think you read something into the record from conservation, and the site is extremely long and narrow, and is bifurcated by wetlands in two different places. And the proposal is to completely avoid the wetlands. My clients have worked very, very hard to not encroach on any wetlands. 375-43.3 says that the ZBA can grant a use variance if they determine that the site can't reasonably be used for the allowed uses. And I think we all love farms and stuff, but when you get farms involved with wetlands, it can be a little problematic today for all sorts of reasons.
Just for clarification, you're seeking a use variance here?
Well,
I thought there is a pre-existing non-conforming use that's not been abandoned as of yet.
That's right.
well, so that's what I thought, and I cited in the petition. I referred to Mr. Braga's opinion that we were grandfathered for a period of time, and I think technically, according to Mr. Braga, who's here this evening, which is above and beyond the call of duty, so thank you, Mr. Braga. We have until the end of the calendar year to, break ground. But the denial letter dated June 18th specifically references a use variance. And so I was going to address that.
And that was from our current building inspector,
Yes.
correct? Yeah, it just says a variance. So your application only asked for a variance. I was thinking that given the way I had read this up until recently was that you're looking for dimensional variance or variation from requirements for parking and whatnot from us. But I didn't, and I figured that your use situation was was still,
yeah.
still valid where you wouldn't require a use variance. So I haven't considered this as a use variance up until this very moment.
Right. Well, as you know, the use of the site historically has been for used cars. There's been a car dealership there for a long, long time. And so it was Mr. Braga's opinion that we had a grandfathered period of time that expires at the end of this calendar year. But I think I'm limited by the four corners of the denial letter, and the denial letter is mentioning that there's use variance, and I think we could obtain a use variance because I think it's reasonable for the ZBA to conclude that the allowed uses really don't fit this particular site, and that the proposed plan is a perfect use for this site. I mean, Fawns Corner Road is a very commercialized area, and as you've mentioned, given the history of this site with a car dealership, it's reasonable to assume that this site could have its,
What about the argument, I don't mean to cut you off, but what about the argument of the fact that all this is in essence an expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming use, and
No,
therefore
special permit.
and not a variance?
Absolutely.
well, I'd love that, but I don't want to, on a good day, I know a little bit of law. I'm not the zoning enforcement officer, and actually, I think it was Mr. Braga who came up with the concept of the denial letter, which I think is a great idea, okay? And so when we adopted the whole concept of the denial letter, I look at the denial letter and I'm thinking to myself, I have to address the issues raised in that denial letter. Now, I'd love to proceed just with a special permit. That would be great because, as you well know,
We would still need a
Mr. Chairman.
variance for the other issues.
Right, but
That's the other thing. When I was preparing for this, it wasn't clear to me exactly what the variances were. They were general, but I don't have a comparison to what the bylaw allows and what you're seeking on as a line-by-line item.
right.
So quite frankly, Mr. Attorney Bullard, I'm going to ask that you put that together for me or for us specifically, so that we can specifically list the variances that you're seeking for each of the issues that you're confronted with.
Right, and Casey Birch is here, who's the site manager, and for instance, on the denial letter, it references we need relief for 40 feet from the street frontage. He's itemized all those things, and he can read those into the record for you today if you'd like, or maybe you want it in writing.
I'd rather have it in writing
Yeah.
so I can have an opportunity
Yeah.
to put forth
Yeah.
a suggested or some findings that my board could review that were substantive. You understand?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have addressed each one of his itemized relief points, and we can get that to you in writing, point by point, as to what we're proposing versus what the standard is.
That would be good. And if you could put it to me in Word version, that'd be great, so that way I could just cut and paste it
Yep.
if I needed to.
Yep, no worries.
Because I just don't feel comfortable, because it's so general at this point. And the plan that I was provided, I didn't have one of these larger plans.
Yeah.
It was difficult to read for me to,
Yeah,
and I can't
yeah.
decipher. So if I can have specific, and if they match up to what the denial letter is, that'll be good. Maybe, there may be a couple extra things. But what was petitioned for in the application?
Use
Variance.
variance.
But it was a use variance?
No, well, it was, I think it was two. I think it was a use variance and all sorts of relief from setbacks and,
In your application, it was a variance.
Use variance, right?
No, a
Oh,
variance.
that's a variance?
Yeah.
I was just looking for-
That was a scrivener's error by you putting use in there, so that was an error. And I had sent you
right.
Oh, so that's even better.
so it's a variance.
Yeah, but it doesn't have any, but the problem is, it doesn't have, the only thing that it refers to here is that he's seeking a variance from the use, but there's nothing about the dimensional requirements in this variance.
The application.
It's not in there, I don't see it in the application. This what kind of threw me
What
off.
was
as well.
advertised?
A use variance, but that was an error. It should have just been
Well,
variance.
then if it was advertised as use variance,
No,
yes, so.
or maybe it was, but he's asking for a use variance.
Now
When
he's
you look at
asking
this, it's just a use variance. It doesn't have, if you look at what's been applied for here, unless something else was advertised, I don't know.
No,
Where's the legal ad on this?
right there.
All right, so I'm going to read it into the record, gentlemen. Is seeking a use variance to construct a 39,057 square foot car dealership in a limited industrial district in which does not comply with the town zoning bylaws as the design of the parking lot does not meet setback requirements, number of spaces required, or size of spaces.
Parking, I think, is planning board anyways, isn't it?
Well, unless he's seeking for a variation from it, right? But
I
there's some,
think, we don't, I think it's
if
the,
there's plantings or planters or things of that nature, it's before us as well.
I gotta double check on that. I think the planning board gives the waivers on the parking, if I'm not mistaken.
All
So,
right, so-
so it's not a variance from the zoning board of appeal. I think, Attorney Ballard, I think is your engineer here tonight?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Scully, is it,
Casey Birch is here.
okay. I have a question.
Yeah. Casey, can you come up?
I have a legal question.
Oh, if you don't mind.
Continue with that. It's just gonna be with,
Sorry.
I'm gonna come back to you, though.
Yeah,
We'll,
yeah.
we'll hear from the engineer.
Casey,
Maybe you'll
step
touch
up
upon it.
and
Sure.
state your name and
For the
address.
record, my name is Casey Birch. I work for Solely Engineering, address at 11 Vanderbilt Avenue in Norwood, Mass.
Okay. Well, my question is, was the wetland delineated? Do you have, you showed the wetland edge. Was that from aerial mapping, or this was actually from a wetland delineation from biologists?
Yes, it was delineated by Goddard Consultants, and the brook was also delineated.
Okay, that's what okay, because I wasn't, there was a reference to the brook, so the brook is there. So your buffers are correct?
That's
And this
correct.
is based on instrumental surveys and all that? Okay. Because if it wasn't, it would change, then you come back here, we can't,
Right.
we can't act on. Where's the brook? The brook is right here, I just saw the brook right now. Just a stream.
How are they gonna be able to access from one
What?
area to this
Well,
area?
they're going from this lot.
CP 2.10.
Let's see. And have you filed with conservation yet, anything, wetland?
We have not. We figured we'd go through this process to get the relief first, because if
Okay.
we can't get it, then it's kind of
Right.
pointless.
Okay.
Well, I'm still not certain exactly what relief we have here, so, just so that I get a sense of what not that it has complete relevance to this, but I just wanna know what his thought process was. I'm gonna call upon Mr. Braga to come forward and explain to us how it is that he arrived at his understanding.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Joe Braga, 58 Seabreeze Drive, Dartmouth, Mass. When I first worked with Danny on this proposal, we looked at that lot, and there was already a car dealership on it. The license expired in December of '22, which means there's 2 years, which would be at the end of this December. A use variance would not be needed because of the use is active at this time. Secondly, once the variance is approved for the petitioner, then they have the 18 months. The initial 12 months for the variance, and if they need an extension of 6 months. If they didn't exercise that variance in that amount of time, then the use would be completely gone, and it couldn't be revisited again. As far as the parking relief all comes under the purview of the planning board. It has through site plan review, whether it's the size of the parking spaces or they don't have enough parking. And that's per Article 24.3B, which talks about special permit reduction in required number of spaces. Both the planning board approves that. So technically, they wouldn't need a variance for the parking either. The only thing they would need relief from right now would be the setback dimensions for the parking lot. That would be it. Everything else, that would go through site plan review. The use variance that was not advertised correctly, in my opinion, because the use is still active. It's only July, and they would have until December. So if they get the variance in that amount of time, then that use remains protected. And that was my opinion from the start of this project.
That's okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes. You can ask.
question for Mr.
Absolutely, ask.
So I think it would be more appropriate if he wants to continue with this, to ask for a special permit for the increase of the non-conforming use for the car dealership and the setback for the building, right?
Absolutely. That would be.
Other than,
I
yeah,
would
because
go
that
with that.
would buy him another 2 years too.
Because everything could go through, technically, everything could go through special permit for the extension, and then also for the parking, for the reduction in parking and for the size of the spaces. Would all be special permit, that would go through the planning board. And the ZBA could take care of the other part of the expansion of the nonconformity. all through special permit, it wouldn't require a variance.
Not until after December 20.
This-
That's right.
Right.
Up until the end of this year, it would be a special permit for an expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming. That's
Right,
what I
as
was
long as,
thinking.
as long
But
as
the thing
that's
is-
approved, they're going through this process, that use remains protected throughout the whole procedural process. So if you approve, all this gets approved in November, then that use is protected until, for that 2-year period, 1 year or 2-year period, whatever the board votes on.
And meanwhile, can they go to the select board and get the license renewed for another 2? Is that a process, or you don't think, I mean, Mr.
They would have to actually be an ownership of it and apply for the dealership license. They probably could. They would have to select, check with Melanie on that. I'm not sure of that. But as long as they're going through the proceedings and they're in the process of this, the use remains protected under the state statute and the local statute for that use.
All right. Now, the thing is obviously, people can have different of opinions in the interpretation of these things. I could get 3 more lawyers in this room, and all 3 of them disagree with me. And I tend to think and agree with you, but it doesn't mean that our building inspector is wrong in his interpretation of this. He may just have a more restrictive type interpretation than what I may be willing to take. And Attorney Human may have a different interpretation than what I have. But the way I feel about it, and I'd like to make sure that we sort of get a sense of our members here, because I don't want to send this petitioner to go do something different, and then where they're going to be confronted with issues from other members here. So, Helene, what's your sense on this?
I feel that they can apply for a special permit, but again, and I agree, there's 3 different lawyers here, and they might have 3 different opinions, maybe we can run it by town council, just to be on
I
the
think we
safe
have
side.
run this by them before, something
This
similar
one?
to this. Not this one specifically, no, but situations like this. And I don't remember what their determination was, because I still haven't moved away from how I feel about this based on my legal experience.
I mean, I don't have an issue with the special permit personally, but
Neither
again,
do I. Do you understand the issue, Attorney Human?
Yeah, I do, and I'm leaning towards special permit for the extension of the use,
And variance on the
and the setbacks.
it'll be variance on the
There'll be a
side.
variance on the
A
setbacks.
variance on the setbacks.
This board needs to remember, Mr. Chair, that at the end of the day, regardless, I know I'm the former commissioner and the new commissioner is in place. At the end of the day, your decision is what sticks. So the permit could not be denied or prolonged for any reason. Once this board, you're the jurisdiction. Once your decision is made, then that's locked in. And a building permit has to be issued based upon the decision of this board, by law.
But I also want to make sure that if we're going to take the position that we feel that it should be by special permit, that we have consistency, right? We're not setting precedent here, but that we're consistent in our interpretation of this. And I think that also will be useful. Our building inspector's new, and he doesn't know basically the pulse of this board and what this board sort of has more sensitivities or proclivities to, right? So I think from seeing that at least 2 of the voting members, I want to ask Attorney Faria, the issue, do you understand the issue that we've got here? I can provide clarification. Because I'm not sure if you must be familiar with the site. You've been around.
I'm very familiar with the site,
Yes.
but I agree with Mr. Braga, and my only concern would be is that this has been advertised for a change of use, is that correct?
It is correct.
So I think that may be problematic, because can we now say we're going to give a special permit where it hasn't been advertised?
Can't do that.
So to me, I know the location very well, and actually, when I was 16 years old, it used to be a driving school, I believe, with a used car dealer, Mr. Rose, Nick Rose, I believe that. It's been there for many years. I just think that the other thing that bothers me about saying the change of use, I don't think it's the Board of Appeals' decision to make zoning decisions like that, a change of use, although we probably have a precedent, but that's more of a planning board or a town meeting purview to say, what's the use for that particular area, not that particular land. But I agree with Mr. Braga that I think that this should go forward with just a license by the Board of Selectmen for the car dealership, and they're expanding that use, which I think I would be in favor of the expansion of that use. Clean that,
Yeah, the board's
clean that
not-
area up.
The board's not comfortable with the special permit, you still have the option of granting the variance for the dimension.
Right.
For the setback issue, and you're well within your rights to do that also. And the zoning board of appeals also, per 48, is allowed to make modifications as you see fit during hearings. That is well within your authority to do that. In any situation, we'd be setting a precedent. If you're not comfortable with the special permit, then I would suggest that the board go the variance for the setbacks and let the planning board take care of the parking. And all you would be responsible for is that setback issue per variance.
Thank you. So, as you all know, this is a public meeting. I'm going to provide an opportunity to anyone in the audience to get a sense, before I ask council some questions. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak either in favor or in opposition to this petition? I can report to the viewers at home that we have about 20 people here, and no one's raised their hand or signaled that they would like to provide any comment either in favor or in opposition. So now, council, how would you like to proceed? I'm of the mindset that I'd rather not grant a variance if I don't have to, especially a use variance, because that is quite, it's a request, not to say that it wouldn't be granted in this context, but how would you like to proceed? And we're willing to entertain whatever your position would be, I would believe.
Well, part of me is thinking that maybe we need to continue the matter because maybe town council needs to weigh in on this. You've raised a bunch of issues as to whether or not we even need a use variance, and or maybe it's just a special permit.
You're gonna need a variance for the setback requirement for the
setbacks.
parking to the lot lines. And we can understand, this is a unique parcel, it's very narrow.
Yeah.
You've got some restrictions with topography and whatever else, and also wetlands.
Yeah.
So we've got those concerns. I think that there are a lot of variables here that, get you too close to an approval.
So you've also asked for kind of a detailed breakdown.
That I'm
on
gonna
the-
need before we would go forward. We're
Yeah.
definitely gonna continue the matter,
Yeah,
that I know.
yeah. So, and we can get you that itemized point-by-point list really fairly quickly.
Well, I'm also coming to learn that some of those are not before us. Some of them are
Right.
before the planning board, so you don't need that relief.
Right.
Maybe only be one or two.
Right.
And that's probably one of the reasons why I was not understanding some of the requests.
Yeah. So, David Rosenberg, do you have something you'd like to add to this? David, you need to stand up if you want to say anything. So David is the president of the petition.
Good evening. I'm Dave Rosenberg. I represent PRM Realty and hopefully someday will be Audi and Volkswagen of Dartmouth. So my question is, we've been working on this plan for quite some time. I think.
Michelle?
Yeah, no, I know, but I think Michelle's probably tired of us meeting with her. But we've been working on this for a while. We thought we had canvassed everything, and obviously there's a new building commissioner or inspector in town who sees things differently than the prior building commissioner. I just want to make sure that we don't run into the time constraints. If you send us back to a special permit, for a special permit, and all of a sudden, we can't get heard for a few months, and then that meeting gets continued and continued again, then we're outside of the purview of it expiring this year, and then we'll have to come back and see you anyway. The current owners of the property, some of the representatives of the Rose family are here tonight, have been extremely patient with us, and I just don't want to exploit the kindness that they've shown in helping us to try and get this thing approved. The only question I would say is, what is now the quickest way, the most expedient way we can get this what we need through the town at this point? That's what I would ask.
Well, either way, we don't feel that it was appropriately advertised. Is that part of it here?
Well, I think Mr.
Well-
Bullitt and I will have a discussion about that.
Okay, fair enough, but either way, you're gonna have another date. And if you're going to, we're gonna have to publish it. If they're gonna amend, if it's gonna be a special permit, it's gonna have to be republished. So we're looking at the earliest, we're now what? We're pretty much in August. So we're looking at what, September for a date for them, early September? Is that a sufficient time for the, I don't know the number of days for publication. I know it's twice, it's 2 weeks.
Yeah, we're going to make it for the 21st of August, so the first
No,
week of September.
yeah, I already kind of made that, did that, some of that.
September 10th.
September 10th, he would be back.
Okay, and that would be for a special permit.
Well, that's what your counsel, that's why I was trying to get your and I'll leave him, he doesn't have to make up his mind here today. He could decide that he wants to just have it as a variance and continue as a variance, or he can bring it forth as a special permit. But
How are we continue as a variance if there's a valid license for this right now? Is that?
that's the other thing, right? Well, there is, but it's pre-existing non-conforming. It's a pre-existing non-conforming use. So they're seeking a variance so that it's no longer pre-existing non-conforming. They're trying to rectify it, right? At another level. Well, I guess maybe that's why you're thinking about town council, is whether or not they can even get a variance, given that they are allowed to conduct the use as they currently exist, even though it's not in compliance with zoning,
Till the end of this year.
till the end of this year. So you're saying, it's in essence, it may be, it's not a valid issue because they have the right to conduct the use at this point in time. They could only come before us for a variance after January. I'm only thinking out loud. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that this is the
I-
situation,
I-
but I guess that's what you're
I
touching upon.
personally, and it's on the record, I don't have an issue with it, whether it's a special permit or a variance. We've given variances on that particular strip, and it's an appropriate use. I don't have an issue with that. Legally, we just have to find what's more appropriate at this time. But I think if you go, the fastest and way is to get you protected for another 2 years, is to file for a special permit. And then, but you already have an existing non-conforming use, you're expanding the use, because I'm sure your license now is not for 200, 300 cars, whatever it is.
Well, it's going to go from a Class 2 license to a Class 1 license, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Which allows for new
So that's an
automobiles.
expansion, and also your building, it doesn't meet the setback, you need a variance on the setbacks.
Well, it's an expansion there, but it's also an expansion on the building size, the
Right.
density, which we understand.
Yeah, no, I mean, that,
Listen, I agree with you. I'd much rather grant, to me, I'd rather grant a special permit rather than grant a variance on this.
Can I ask a question? So part of me is thinking that if we're here because of the advertisement for a variance, part of me is thinking, well, maybe we act tonight on the variance for the setbacks. But you asked earlier for some additional information, which I wouldn't be able to get to you until tomorrow or the next day. But part of me is thinking, geez, maybe we act on the setbacks today, and then if you talk to town council about a special permit, whether or not it's needed, and it may or may not, well, it's probably going to be needed for the expansion of a non-conforming use. Yep,
Well,
so,
if you want to continue it just for the issue of the setback for the parking spaces and put it on for the next hearing date, and you get me that information, we could piecemeal it like that, but then you're going to be bringing back a petition for special permit anyway.
yeah, so I'd probably rather just have one hearing. I'd
One
probably
hearing.
I'd rather have just one hearing, combine it all, which would be, I think Michelle might have said early September.
September 10th. And we're mindful,
10.
we're mindful of the fact that September 11th?
September 11th, I'm sorry.
September 11th. And we're mindful of the time constraints here, so we'll work with you. Certainly, I think the architect wants to.
Yeah, I just have one question. We'd be reapplying for the appropriate, either a special permit or a variance.
You'd be doing both.
Right.
It'd be a special permit for use, and it would be a variance for the setback for the parking.
Right.
And any other relief that you need.
Yes. So now we have a town document that goes against that with the denial letter. Will this have to be updated as well, or is your word overriding the denial letter?
You may resubmit your request, you're gonna resubmit the request.
Yeah.
He may give you the same opinion, that could be his
Oh, okay.
opinion. That's fine, and we respect that, because
Yeah.
he may have a difference of opinion, but our interpretation of what the bylaws, how they should be imposed, is that, to me, it should be a special permit.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, so I think at this point, given that there is no one who has any comments, either in favor or in opposition, we'll entertain, would you like to request to continue this matter?
Yes, please.
You want to continue, or do you want to withdraw it without prejudice? Well, how about we do this? You just continue it for now, and then depending on how this goes, you can always decide that you want to withdraw it and file a new one.
Or file a new one and then
Anyway,
come back and
yeah.
that same night, like they did
Withdraw
tonight,
this
and
one.
withdraw this one,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I mean, that's what
Yeah,
I
yeah,
meant to say.
right, so he's not losing
Okay,
time.
I'm not saying withdraw it, withdraw
Right,
it just
right.
before.
But I think I'd file two separate applications, one for a variance and one for a special permit, right?
Yes.
So.
It's okay, it's going to get you where you need to be.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I echo David's comments. Mrs. Rose has been very, very, very patient, and we'd like to move this along if possible.
And we'll be mindful of that. So at this point in time, gentlemen, can we entertain a motion to continue this? So we'll continue it to September 11th,
Yep.
and that give you plenty of time to amend whatever you need to, well, it's
Yeah.
going to be filing.
Well,
New filings.
refund,
New
yeah.
filings. All right, I'll
set?
entertain a motion, gentlemen.
At the request of the petitioner, I make a motion that we continue this matter to September 11th.
ZAV 24-10.
Oh, right. ZAB 24-10.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it.
Thank you
right,
all.
We'll see you soon.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right, moving on to the last matter that's on for tonight's meeting. It's special permit ZSP 24-10. The petitioner is Timothy Bashand. Owner is Jamie Marujo. The subject excuse me, folks. There's not a public hearing going on.
Session.
The subject property is located at 47 Spring Street, also known as map 165, lot 62. The property is located in the general residence and aquifer zone 3 district. It was legally advertised on July 4th and July 11th of this year.
I make a motion that we waive the reading of the abutters list.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Petitioner is seeking a special permit, proposed garage addition, for lot coverage from 7.5% to 15.7%. All right, let me see if I can read the denial letter on this. All right, the letter is addressed to Timothy Bashand, and it's regarding 47 Spring Street, and it's dated May 31st of 2024. I've reviewed your application, and at this time, your proposal cannot be approved due to non-compliance with current zoning regulations. Proposed garage addition changes lot coverage from 7.5 to 15.7%. For zoning bylaw, special permit is required. Your application is being denied under the following sections of the Dartmouth zoning bylaw, 375-28.5, prohibited uses. A, lot coverage above 10% or lot coverage above 2,500 square feet of any lot, whichever is greater. The subject property is located in a general residence aquifer zone 3 district. And that's it for that letter. Let's see what else we got here. Where's the comments? Can I have the comments on this one? Oh, I have them here. This is from the Board of Health. This overall Morton Park subdivision, where this property resides, has poorly draining soils and very high groundwater. The subsurface drainage system shown is of a depth where groundwater is expected to be encountered. Additionally, we know that impervious area contributes the largest of 2 equal loads of nitrogen to this watershed that discharges to the Slocum River, an estuary that is designated as impaired by the EPA for excess nitrogen limits. An above-ground bioretention facility for roof runoff is preferred, since that style of drainage design, when properly designed and maintained, can reduce nitrogen. Subsurface structures do not treat for nutrients such as nitrogen. If the application is considered, it should be upon a recharge design that is best suited to the soils. Failure to consider the above concerns is likely to result in a system that will not function as intended. Next, conservation. A review of the GIS mapping does not indicate any wetlands within 100 feet of the site. These maps are not specifically accurate to the ground conditions. The rear wooded portion of this lot may support an isolated condition. It would be prudent for the applicant to apply to have conservation staff conduct a wetland A1 assessment to be sure. There is not enough to put this on hold, but this area does support wetlands, streams, and a high water table throughout, and being certain is always best. Mr. Mark Garrett. DPW. Compliance with the following DPW regulations, rules, and specifications will be required but not limited to Department of Public Works construction and specification design standard details, General Bylaw 313, stormwater management regulations, rules and regulations for the installation connection of building sewers for the use of public sewers, and site plans shall show all existing utilities. All right, so at this time, I'm going to call upon the petitioner or their representative. I see Mr. Fallon here. I believe he's his representative.
Yes.
In his case.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Christian Fallon, Principal Engineer and President of Fallon Corp., here tonight representing the owner, who's also here, Jamie Marujo. As you mentioned, we are here tonight seeking the board's approval for lot coverage from 15.7% to, in lieu of the max, 10%. For that site, as far as square footage area goes, we're looking at approximately 1,719 square feet over the limit. The site is located at 47 Spring Street, which contains approximately 28,800 square feet. The applicant is looking to construct a 1,176 square foot addition off the current house, along with the necessary impervious area to access the garage. We will be proposing a recharge system for the proposed addition and also the existing dwelling, which will certainly meet the DPW's requirements. We did do soil testing out there already. As we know, this would be a requirement for the DPW. Groundwater is indeed high at 2.5 feet. So we will have to meet their requirements as well. Certainly, I will take into account conservation's comments in regards to doing a bioretention, rain garden versus a subsurface recharge system. This parcel and a lot of the surrounding parcels in this area are certainly a lot smaller than this. This was actually a double lot. So an instance for each lot, you could have 2,500 square feet per lot. And if you just take a look at that, we would actually meet the requirement because in total we're at roughly 48,900 square feet. So certainly it's in uniform with the surrounding area. The Board of Appeals, as you may know, may grant such special permit provided they find the proposed use is in harmony with the purposes of this bylaw, is appropriate to the natural topography, soils, and characteristics of the site, will not, during construction or thereafter, create an adverse environmental impact on the aquifer zone in the town, will not adversely affect an existing or potential town water supply, and is inconsistent with the town's bylaw, is consistent with the existing future development in accordance with the underlying zoning. As an engineer, I feel we meet all that criteria. Again, we're talking about 1,176 square feet over the required max amount of impervious lot coverage. And as I stated, if you did consider this as two lots, which it was, we would still be under the 2,500 square foot per lot. considering that and then the improvements that we're going to be doing with the recharge, at the end of the day, I think this is going to be an improvement, not only to the aquifer zone, but to the abutting residents. We feel it would, having this addition certainly has negligible impacts in regards to stormwater runoff, and certainly will not have any effects, negative effects to their property value. That's all I have right now. I'll be certainly glad to answer any questions the board or abutters may have. Thank you.
Certainly. I have some questions, but I'm going to defer the questions for now. I'm going to let some of my members, but before, actually, one other thing I need to do is, I should have read this into the record. This was actually an email that we received.
But do we have the floor plans, Mr. Chair?
Right here.
I don't have, okay.
Right here.
Okay.
So, this came from our building inspector, and it was addressed to our clerk.
Maybe, yeah.
So I just want to read this into the record.
Sure.
This is another concern. Please notify, and I sort of picked up on this, but I just wasn't sure, and I was going to ask you today. Please notify the ZBA that the application for the special permit, ZSP 24-10, does not mention the accessory apartment that is presented with the floor plans. The accessory apartment is in violation of the zoning bylaws for the general residence district. Specifically, 375-10.2 EC is located within or attached by a conditioned space to a single-family residence in such a manner so as to maintain the appearance of a single-family residence. But it can't contain not more than 800 square feet of habitable gross floor area and has not more than 2 bedrooms. The special permit application is only requesting adding garage, which pushes them over the lot coverage limits in the Aquifer Zone 3 district. Please let me know if you have any questions. And it was signed by Randy Bassett, who is our zoning enforcement officer. So you indicate, I think, based on your,
It's a garage.
that it has a total of 1,000, I think, 100 square feet, 100 and some odd square feet. So if you are going to ask for more than 800, anything that's more than 800.
Mr. Chair, that's the per footprint, 1176. So times 2, that's 2352.
2352.
If you're taking the second floor, correct? That's 1172 per.
That's the footprint.
Per footprint, right? Correct. Okay. So the garage is 1162 on the second floor. I just looked at the, I didn't have.
I guess we could look at it where the garage is just the garage, and then the other area is actually exceeds the 800 square feet. So that's gonna require a variance. A request for a variance, if that's what they wanna do.
Let's continue.
How are you? My name's Jamie Marujo. I'm the owner of the property. So when we met with the previous building inspector, it was told to my builder that we were allowed, based on the square footage, which I was led to believe it was 1,000. So we can certainly address that if it's 880, but also too that that area is approved for duplexes, which is technically what that is.
But the thing is, you're coming before us
For lot coverage.
for lot coverage, one, which we're prepared to vote on that. It's just, and you would be granted that, but I think you're gonna have a problem with this building inspector to be able to build this because it exceeds, he's gonna request that you get a variance.
Okay.
We can't approve what's shown on the floor layouts.
Yep.
With this application, because this application is for lot coverage.
So what we can do one of two things. And I don't know how I feel about piecemealing it, because the plans that we have are not in conformance. So actually, I'm gonna take that off the table. I don't feel comfortable actually moving forward just on this. We're willing to allow you to continue tonight's hearing. You file a request for a variance, if you're looking to do that, or you can just present plans that bring you into compliance. But I will say this, we've had some difficulty with people wanting to put large-size residential units attached to their homes, and I don't know if we've been granting them. We've not felt comfortable. But obviously, we look at these on a case-by-case basis, and we will, you know, if you need a variance and you're asking for it, we'll consider it. But I know that there was one for someone on Allen Street.
Allen, right.
And we,
And
don't
I
think-
drove by it the other day, they're under construction, but it looks like part of the house, so, yeah, so.
And they actually reduced the size.
I
So-
don't know what it is.
So the situation is one in which I don't feel comfortable trying to approve your special permit when we're relying on plans that are already submitted that exceed what you're allowed to do. So if you're gonna come back just on a special permit issue, and you wanna reduce the size of the structure, so that you'll be in conformance, that you won't need a variance, that's fine, we can continue it, you amend the plans, and we'll consider it, or request a variance with what you're asking for in conjunction with, and we'll mark it for the same date of the special permit. Maybe that was a
If I
convoluted
may,
way.
Mr. Chairman, was that an email that was just sent directly to the board, or
Yeah,
can
it
we get
came
a,
from the
can we get a
building
copy of that?
What's the date? Absolutely. It was July 23rd, Tuesday, which was yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah.
Yesterday.
That'd be great if we can get a copy of that.
Absolutely. And,
So if,
Right there. She's giving it to him.
thank you. So if we keep the living space to 800 square feet, the accessory apartment, then we would be in
You
conformance.
wouldn't need a variance, you would only need the special permit. Now, I have a couple of issues with that I'd just like to raise. One of the things is, and I'm not familiar with this, but we've got the Board of Health having some concerns that given that there's a high water table, that the typical structures that they use that are in-ground for water recharge will not work well. And they're suggesting an above-ground bioretention facility for roof runoff is preferred, since that style of
They can
drainage
do that.
design,
That's
when
fine.
suddenly
Problem.
designed and maintained, can reduce nitrogen.
Yeah, we have no problem with that. That's something we can easily do.
I'm not familiar
There's
with
plenty of room on the site.
What's your groundwater from?
2.5 feet from,
2.5
we
below?
did the test pit already,
Oh,
so
okay. So,
we would.
yeah.
We're filling the area there a little bit anyway.
Right, but you need some separation, even
Yeah.
if you go with the shallow infiltrators. I think open system will be fine. So they can meet that requirement, I'm not concerned about that.
Okay, we can make that a
But
condition.
we're not acting, I think we need to know what we're acting on.
Well, I don't feel comfortable acting on this when we have plans submitted to us that
Right.
exceed.
No, I agree.
That's what I'm saying, so.
Does it make sense to, I know there's some abutters here that,
I wanna hear from
spent
them.
time out. I would like to hear from them,
Yes.
and
If they got concerns, maybe
we
we
could
can address that too.
address any other issues when we come back.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, at this time, given that this is a public hearing and we allow people to provide and put forth public comment, I'm going to ask if there's anyone either in opposition or in support of this petition to come forward, identify yourself by stating your name and your address and setting forth your concerns. So, you can raise your hand and we'll ask you to come up. Come on up.
Hello, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here tonight. My name is Denise Buno. I live at 87 Morton Ave. I reside across the street from the property. My concern is the size of the garage, and then the site, the plans that I did look at has the apartment on the top, and that wasn't in what was going to be done today, the way you said. My other thing is, the applicant, should he be residing at 47 Spring Street to be able to put a garage there?
That's not a requirement.
That's not a requirement?
Not a requirement.
Okay. Thank you.
Continue if there's anything else you would like to ask.
No, I'm all set. Well, yeah, there is.
Okay.
The driveway entrance,
Yes?
at the beginning of it, it looks entirely different than the rest of it. What is that?
I'm not sure what you're trying to get at with regard to
Oh,
the
the
difference.
construction entrance.
What do you mean by, is that what that is? That's the construction? entrance?
Not the construction entrance, the driveway entrance to getting into the garage.
No, I think it's the same one. I think it's while they're building the garage, the DPW requires that they build it of a certain width and with certain type material, so that there isn't like mud tracking from the site onto the street. It has to be of a stone-type composite, if you will, where it drains properly.
Okay.
It's a requirement they've imposed for some time now on contractors or people that are gonna build. And what you see there, it looks like rocks on their plan. I believe that that's what that is. That's the
That's what
temporary.
that's
Now, how
for.
it's gonna end up at the end, I don't know if they're gonna use gravel, asphalt, concrete, pavers, I don't know. And that's really not exactly within our purview. But I think that's what that's trying to depict there. It's the proposed construction entrance. That's what that, and it says it's 12 feet wide by 24 feet long. They want of a certain length to ensure that any vehicle that goes onto the site while construction's going on, when it exits the site, it doesn't drag along with it and bring it along its wheels. It has an opportunity for that to fall off before it goes along the roadway, which I think makes sense, right? It preserves the roads and
Right.
streets from debris and soils and dirt and sand and whatever it may be.
Okay, my other concern is, on the site plan, it has the limit of clearing.
Okay, so limit of clearing?
Yes.
I don't see that. Do you see that, Helene?
The line with
The swirly line going up. It goes all the way up, then it goes across the backyard.
Okay, yes, limit of
It
clearing.
goes
I
all
see
the
that.
way down Morton Ave and all the way down Fenton Street to the end of the property.
Well, it doesn't go all the way down Morton Avenue, I don't believe.
Yes, it does. If you look at it good, it's there.
Oh, that's the existing clearing, I believe. Is that the edge of?
All the wooded area
Rather than
is.
guessing, what we're gonna do
I
is
got
we're gonna
it.
call upon the petitioner's engineer, and they'll explain that to us, okay, in a little bit.
Okay,
Is there anything else?
no.
All right, just so, did I answer your question satisfactorily with regard to the driveway?
Yes,
Good. So the only thing I need to ask the engineer when I ask him
Limit
to
of
come back
clearing.
up is the limit of clearing.
yes.
But I'm gonna ask other people to come forward now if they have any questions, but we'll try to remember that. Limit of clearing. Is there anyone else that'd like to come up and speak, either in favor or in opposition, or with just concerns about this project?
My name's Andrew Lafferty. I live at 42 Spring Street, across from the house. My concern is there's a lift being put in the garage.
Excuse me?
A lift being put in the garage. Why?
Lip?
It's not zone business.
I understand that.
Oh, lift.
A lift, I think it's like a car lift. I looked through this, I just happened to notice that. And did you see a plan with that depicted on it?
Yes, I do.
All right, so I will also ask the engineer about that. Anything else, sir?
No, I'm concerned about becoming a business.
Well, I understand that. Well, obviously, this is not zoned for business, so if anything were to happen at any point in time where they were conducting a business there, obviously, that's what the zoning enforcement officer is for. That's what he enforces, to ensure that they're not small businesses that are not in compliance with the small business bylaw, or home occupation bylaw, I should say, within zoning.
And-
But I will ask him that question.
And
Thank
the
you.
second thing, on the apartment, I heard that it was supposed to be a handicapped apartment.
A
On the
what?
second, for handicap.
Oh.
And the second floor does not have an elevator or a ramp. How would it be handicapped?
They're not asking for anything before us for a handicap type of apartment.
Okay.
Anything
That's
else,
what I
sir?
had heard.
Anything else?
That's it.
Thank you. All right, is there anyone else in the audience? Come on up.
Good afternoon, Charles Shestak, 42 Spring Street. I want to say that I am opposing this permit. Aside from the obvious visual nuisance that this would come to fruition, it's also a quality of life issue as well. You got to deal with noise, okay? If this becomes a business, you're going to deal with trucks.
Hold on a second.
Sure.
What's the zoning on this?
It's
General residence, right? General, right. It's not
So-
allowed.
Okay, so I'm just,
Allowed. So
sure, I appreciate
like it,
that.
you can't be on supposition. Anyone can try to convert something illegally.
Okay.
We don't act on that.
Looking at the plans, 14-foot garage doors, lifts inside of the garage. That's not for your normal vehicle to be stored.
I don't know exactly which plans you're looking at.
Right here, Michael, it says.
I don't see any lifts depicted on any of these plans that are presented to us.
Yeah,
Well,
they're-
do you have those plans?
I don't have them with me now. I came to, but all the way on the left-hand side,
This is what they're talking about.
there should be a rectangle.
Lab in 6x8 area for a car lift.
So there's a notation.
I don't see for.
There's a notation.
Second page.
Photos on my phone, so I could show that to you if you can't find them.
It says 9'11", 9 feet 11 inches, not 14.
So you're referring is,
I can't read that.
well, it's referring to, I don't see a lift. Okay, so what you're referring to, I got that now. Thank you. So it's on page 2, and there's a notation that says thickened slab in 8-foot by 8-foot area for a car lift, see manufacturer specifications. All right. So I know that the first inference that can be drawn from that is going to be, it's an automotive repair garage. I don't know what this gentleman plans on doing. Maybe he's a car enthusiast and he just wants to have his own vehicle that he wants to touch upon.
Okay.
If he's going to conduct business there, obviously he's going to be confronted with some significant issues. That's all I can tell you. Now, I can't prohibit him from putting a lift, 2 lifts, or 3 lifts in there if he likes to have his cars where he can park one underneath the other. If that's what he selects, if he chooses to do, he's well within his right to do that on his property. But I can understand that dots are attempted to be connected here. If you're looking for a condition, it's already in the zoning bylaw, but the garages are not to be utilized for any type of automotive repair work, for a business-type automotive repair work. I'm sure that's something I could discuss with the applicant.
As long as that's written, then that's,
So that would appease your concerns?
it would, because I was concerned about noise nuisance, odor, because if it is going to be an operational business, you got to deal with paint, you got to deal with potential oil spills, how are you going to clean all that up, how is that going to affect the property and the neighboring properties? Okay, there's a
Well, all I
lot
can tell you is
of
this.
potential, I'm just bringing my concerns that could happen if this is approved, and then
But a lot of
things change
A
after.
lot of things could happen, right, that have nothing to do with his use of the property. All I can say is this: the zoning does not allow that type of use of the property.
Good.
That's all I can tell you that. And if there's ever a complaint made, and it's brought before the building department, and then there's an appeal brought before the ZBA, we would obviously handle that accordingly. Because that's why we have zoning bylaws, is to protect their neighbors from someone who's using the property not in conformance with what the allowances are for that area.
Sure.
So we
Okay.
most certainly would have some strong words for whoever that person may be if they were to do something like that. I'm not saying that this gentleman would even do something like that or have even any intentions of doing that, but I'm sure they will address that. Is
Okay.
there anything else, sir?
There is. So the concern of the construction happening, it is a flood zone over there. All the neighboring properties have flood problems. So if they're going to be building, and where's the runoff going to go? Is it going to go into the neighbors? Who knows? There's a lot of information that needs to be figured out with that. If it does become a business or become constantly used, I know it
I
can't.
don't want to hear the word business.
Okay. If it
okay?
becomes overly used, how late are they allowed to use that garage if it's going to become a nuisance to neighbors in terms of doing repair work and stuff like that? That's a concern of mine as well. And then, if this permit is allowed and the building of the garage is permitted, then I do request that the Department of Public Health, the building inspector, and the Conservation Committee do become heavily involved. I grew up in this neighborhood. My mother lives there. My grandmother lives there. I got friends and family that are all, it's a quiet neighborhood. And I do not want this to be destroyed, honestly. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Either in favor or in opposition?
Could I say one more thing?
Come on up.
Just to address the lighting coming off the garage, I don't want it to interfere with coming across the street and blinding us going up the street. He has a tendency to overdo lighting situations,
Okay.
so I like to see that addressed.
Well, we typically don't address lighting in non-commercial requests. This is a residence. That's not something we typically address. That's usually addressed with site plan review.
Okay.
As you well heard, this was the first matter we had was with the fire department, and the neighbor had a concern. That's a commercial type use. That's something
Okay.
we would address. Otherwise, you can always complain to the building department if someone is lighting their property excessively and there's spillage onto your property. But from what I understand is, you're across the street, right?
Yes.
So the likelihood that there would be spillage onto you, I think, would be somewhat limited. But nonetheless, that's something that you always have the building inspector to address in the future. You could have had them address it up until now, if they're, and how they currently use the property, if there's excessive lighting that goes on there. But the word business here really doesn't have any place. I can understand that this has been mentioned, and we're gonna address that with them. But this is not a business, it's not zoned for business, and he cannot conduct a business there legally. Now,
Okay.
it doesn't mean that somebody at some point, in any neighborhood, someone can start to use their garage for business purposes. But that's what zoning bylaws, that's why they exist. And that's why we have a building inspector. That's why he's called the chief zoning enforcement officer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And don't get me wrong, I wouldn't want anybody conducting an operation next to my home, right? I would not want that, especially given that I live in a residential area. All right, is there anyone else before I bring the petitioner back so that he can address some of these concerns? All right, there not being anyone at this point in time. I'll give you another opportunity after they provide some clarification on this. So, the first thing is I guess the recharge system, we have an engineer here who feels that they can adequately provide and reduce any impact that we'll have with this type of, there's a specific name for it, which I'm not familiar with. The other one is the limit of clearing. Can you show me on this plan the limit of clearing, if you could sort of sketch it out on there so we can get a sense?
Yeah, so currently, the limited clearing is actually the existing limited clearing right now. So the limited clearing, as you can see, we're keeping all this work within that limit. So currently, we're not proposed to go any further than what's currently.
So whatever's cleared is
going
gonna be maintained the same?
Exactly,
Okay,
correct.
all right, so that addresses that. Now, what about the situation? Obviously, people are concerned, and I can understand.
Yep.
That although there's no lift per se that's drawn out or displayed on this, but there is a note that says a thickened slab in 8 foot by 8 foot area for a car lift, see manufacturer specifications. Can you explain that to us?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. And for the record, I also have a lift in my home as well. Usually when you put in a lift, it's because you have a few vehicles, and in this case, we're certainly trying to keep the footprint as small as possible. So the applicant has a lift because it's for a smaller vehicle, such as a Porsche, a small convertible. So that vehicle would go on that lift and go up, and it'll allow you to have another vehicle underneath it. Certainly, by no means, this will not be a business. This will not be a location where the owner is doing any work on his vehicles. He's here today and can certainly attest, and I know him as well. I don't think he would change the oil on any of his vehicles. Certainly, he would be taking that to an automobile location. So in regards to the lift, it's mainly for the storage of vehicles. And as I stated, this will not be a business. This will not, by any means be a business. In regards to his brother, and mentioned that, ADA access to the accessory unit.
I know what that was about. I was gonna ask you about that. Where was that? Was that referenced anywhere in here that it's an ADA accessible unit?
Do you want to mention your brother's situation?
I have a mentally disabled brother-in-law, which is sort of why the apartment is going to exist, because he has a caretaker. And the thought is with elderly parents, like my in-laws, who reside at the property, I think it's important to note too that I live on Fenton Street, 2 houses away from where this is. So, to put the abutters, some of their sort of concerns at ease, I live there. I have zero intention of having a business there. This is really to help my family long-term to have to care for him. And our hope is that he would never have to go into a home. So if we could actually get the approval to build this, we would bring his caretaker, she would reside there above the garages, and then his parents are there where he resides as well.
Okay,
So he's 53 years old, so.
all right. Thank you. So I think any other thing was the business and repair use, that's already been addressed. So those are the 4 issues.
And certainly, we'll take a look at the square footage. As mentioned, we just received this letter.
We'll continue, I think we should continue it.
Absolutely.
But before we do that, I'm going to give everyone an opportunity if there's something else they'd like to ask or anything that you've addressed. But we'll
Sure.
just continue, and then that way you can decide how you want to handle it, okay?
Thank you.
All right, so what would be the next available date? I know, but I'm not picking a date, just want to know.
It's Carol Marsden. I live on Fenton Street. My question is, what is going to be the change in elevation? You said you're raising the garage. How high?
If I may,
You can come forward.
Mr. Chairman. So the slab,
Do you have profiles here?
well, we have elevations on the plan. So this is elevation 98 here. This is elevation 97, these contours. So we're proposing the slab at 97, which is a little bit of cut and fill between, it's a balancing of cut and fill between 98, and then the bottom over here is at 96. So we proposed it to minimize the amount of fill, which obviously minimizes the,
So
increase in impervious.
Excuse me, ma'am, you have to ask the question so we can hear it.
Is the new proposed foundation going to be the same as the existing foundation on the house it's attaching to?
It's probably gonna be a foot lower.
It's going to be lower than the attached house?
Yeah, this is a slab too, so it's no basement, it's just a 4-foot foundation.
Okay. I'm just concerned about runoff. Because living on Fenton, probably from Cross Road all the way down to Morton Ave, almost every one of those houses, backyards flood.
We're well aware of that. There've been a lot of concerns. There was another project on Fenton Street that came before us for an 8-unit apartment building. There were a lot of concerns from neighbors of that as well.
Right.
But one of the things I've come to learn, not only from being on this board, but from working with engineers, is they find ways to actually improve the situation, because now you have runoff that was otherwise would have been on the ground, now goes onto a roof, into a gutter, into a pipe, and then it goes and dissipates over time,
Trust me.
which actually improves the situation.
I understand that. My husband and I put a lot of money into the ground per request of the town to
Yes.
keep the runoff down. And it's helped our property, but I know we still get surface. I mean, when you walk through the yards, just walking in this much water, all the way down. So with this blocking a little more, that's just my concern.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone else?
Can I just address her comments?
Okay, sure. Just 1 second. We'll let him come forward. Mr. Marujo? Is that the name?
Yeah.
You can address your comments.
So I did just want to point out, so I live at the bottom of Fenton Street, so I know all about water over there. And, I've spent a fortune, just like you have, on that same subject. So, that's entirely why I got Christian Fowler involved, because of all the water. That current property that's on Spring Street, we get water in the basement pretty regularly. So the nice thing about this is by doing the addition, I'm gonna have to solve that problem as well. So, because that's a major concern for me as well. So I'm in the same boat.
All right, there was a gentleman who raised his hand. Come on up, sir. Just please identify yourself, name and address.
Hi, my name's Ray Medeiros. I live on 73 Morton Avenue. And I just have a question. Can you explain, what is a recharge system?
Great question. I understand it peripherally, but this gentleman here.
I can't hear
okay,
it, I'm sorry.
I understand it peripherally. All right, well, first let's start with this. Your last name's Medeiros, right? You said Medeiros is your last name?
Right.
Medeiros.
Medeiros, okay. Well, I'm a Medeiros too, but we're not related, right? Because I don't want to have to recuse myself. We're not related, correct? This is the first time I've ever met.
I'm
This is the
sorry.
first time I've ever met you. We're not related, correct?
No, we're not related. I
At
don't
least not
think
that we
so.
know of. Yeah, at least not that we know of. All right.
Maybe we all are,
Just want to make sure we put that on the record. Now, this gentleman here, he's a professional engineer, so he could describe and explain to you what he understands a recharge system to consist of.
So for a recharge system, normally with the runoff, when you have an impervious areas, let's say concrete, asphalt, all that stuff, it's impervious. It means when it rains, this stuff doesn't go into the soil. It sheet flows, depending on the grade, right? And it goes somewhere. Normally on the streets, you will have catch basins that gets collected to somewhere, a low spot, either maybe a river or a stream or, you know. In this case, a recharge system would take the runoff from the roof and it goes into the gutter in the downspout to a galleys underground that have crushed stone around it and relies on the soils to infiltrate. Now, the problem with this site, you have a high groundwater table. So you can't really, it's already underwater, so you can't put your system in the ground because the groundwater is 2.5 feet, I believe, because you would have to have some separation. Now, depends on the soil. If you have a good soil, let's say you have sandy soil, it infiltrates faster. So if you have lousy soil, if it's loamy soil, it would take a longer time, so you would need a larger system. In this case, I don't think they're gonna rely on a recharge system. They have room in the back where they can create like a shallow, maybe retention area.
Retention
Yeah, I
pond
would,
type of
yes.
thing?
Well, because they need to have some separation from the groundwater, and that could be their storage volume. And again, that could work because that's could be the preferred way over because you have a high groundwater table.
Thank you very much.
I just want to voice my opinion on that. Because once we have a retention basin, detention basin, whatever, we have a mosquito farm. We don't want that in the middle of our
Right, but I
neighborhood.
think they talk about we can have some vegetation that can, like wetland vegetation that can help with absorbing some of the water and all that, so. 2 feet of crushed stone all around. I think we'll leave it up to the engineer how he's gonna design. But by law, with the zoning bylaws, they cannot shed their runoff to your property. So if this happens, you can actually go to and if we approve this project, it's gonna be a condition that they won't cause any flooding or shedding of runoff to adjacent property, so you won't have any of his runoff. He has to take care of it on the site. That would be a condition, yes.
Come on up.
The apartment on top, is it correct that it's for the caretaker to live there?
Well, first of all, the way it's been designed right now, it's not before us. It wouldn't be allowed. So they'd have to come back unless they're either gonna seek a variance or they're going to minimize the size so that they would not require a variance and they would only get the special permit for the infiltration.
Okay, and at that time, we'd get another notice to come for that?
If they were to file for a variance, yes. We're gonna continue tonight's hearing.
Okay.
So there'll be another date in which you folks would be able to attend, and if you have some I just ask that you just raise new concerns, because although we do suffer from some memory loss, we do remember the gist of what goes on here. But if you have some concerns, then you can raise them. But I think we've sort of addressed a lot of these, and I think the biggest one was, and I understand when you see little notations on plans, then, people
Yes.
get concerned. And there isn't gonna be a business, and if there is, that will be taken care of.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Mr. Chair, just for a point of information, some of the comments that I heard there, I just had a question to the board here, is that if we grant a variance or grant any relief here, and there's no stipulation that I know of that we would say that a caretaker has to live there.
No.
The fact that somebody said the caretaker, we're not going to be bound by that. If we approve the apartment, nobody's going to go there and police to see whether the caretaker there or 3 wild and crazy guys. I mean,
I wasn't considering putting in a restriction on that. We don't micromanage these situations.
I understand that. I just wanted to point that out for the people in the audience that mentioned that we're not approving this for a caretaker in any event, we're approving the physical apartment, if we did down the road.
And that's why we're extremely cautious about granting variances for anyone, because in essence, we look at it as if it's a two-family home on for a single-family potential zoned area, such as single residence A and single residence B. But this is in the general residence area.
Correct, and just for clarification for the neighbors, within that zone, you are allowed by, as of right, to construct a bylaw apartment, but it has to be certain size, square footage, and it has to be designed a certain way. So if they meet that, they don't have to come in front of the board for that, for the apartment. They're here because they're increasing the lot coverage over the 10% that it's allowed. You understand? So, but we understand what the concerns are, and I mean, I personally been on this board for over 15 years, and I've seen it before, and I know what the concerns. And if this was granted, we're going to make sure that we have notes that they won't cause any flooding or any undue flooding to adjacent properties, you know, so.
Not only that, they need to get approval from the DPW.
They
The
do,
DPW will have calculations to make a
Absolutely.
determination that the amount of water that comes from a rainstorm would be accommodated on that
Properly,
property.
yeah.
There's some safeguards in place, right? We're not a bad town. We're a pretty good town. There's safeguards in place. All right, so, moving on. At this point in time, I would entertain a motion, well, what's the next available date? And let's see, well, first of all, when is the next available date? Let's start with that.
September 11th.
Are you gonna have enough time between now and September 11th to make the
Oh, yeah.
determinations and amendments that you need to make? If anything, I'll leave it upon you.
Yes.
All right, September 11th. So I'll entertain a motion that the petition is requesting a continuance.
I make a motion that we continue special permit ZSP-24-10 at the request of the petitioner to September 11th, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. All right. Yes, you're very welcome. You have a nice night. Thanks. Moving on to the administrative portion of tonight's meeting, we have a review and approval of administrative minutes of July 10th, 2024. Any comments?
I have no comments, Mr. Chair.
I have no comments.
I have no comments.
I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the administrative minutes of July 10, 2024.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Review and approval of minutes of June 26, 2024 for variance ZSP 24-7, 1402 Tucker Road.
I have no comments, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, my only comment is that that's the reference
Right.
that you read from the conservation, was it conservation?
Board of Health.
The Board of Health.
Board of Health, Board of Health. Yeah,
That
Board of Health.
they were too close to
Right.
the watershed area.
Cut and paste.
Yes.
1402 Tucker Road.
1402
All right,
Tucker Road.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Review and approval of minutes of July 10, 2024, special permit ZSP 24-6, 254C Potomska Road.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
No comments, Mr. Chair.
Gentlemen down there, you have any comments?
None.
I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes of July 10, 2024 for special permit ZSP 24-6, 254-C Potomska Road.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Review and approval of minutes of July 10, 2024, use variance ZAV 24-8, 0 Old Fall River Road.
I have no comments on that.
No comments.
I have no comments. Gentlemen,
None.
I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes of July 10, 2024 for use variance ZAV 24-8, 0 Old Fall River Road.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Is there any additional business that we need to discuss, gentlemen?
No, Mr. Chair.
If there is not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. We've adjourned.